Hey, welcome back to Backyard Barbecue with Bob. Today we're going to talk about the most important lesson I think in Big Green Egg. That's how to light and get the Big Green Egg going. I think it's most important because for me, that was the game changer. I was a gas grill guy. Once I got this thing down to a science and learned that I can have the Big Green Egg hot almost as fast, almost as easy as my gas grill. However, I can never replace the flavor of the Big Green Egg on any other grill. I went from using it occasionally to being the only grill that I use just by learning how to light it properly. It's also the number one thing traveling around, literally talking to thousands of people, as I mentioned. People get scared of oh, it's hard to light. Oh, it takes too long. No, not true. I'm gonna change your mind on that today. So I'm gonna show you just how easy this thing is to light. I'm a huge fan of Big Green Egg's charcoal. I've actually been in their test facility. You can't believe the amount of time and effort they put into making sure their charcoal is the most consistent blend of charcoal there is. It's a blend of oak and hickory, and it's literally blended perfectly for this grill. So yes, you can use other charcoal, and honestly, there's probably better ones, but I don't think there's a better one that's gonna be consistent and give you the same results on the Big Green Egg as their charcoal. So that's why I use theirs. So let's light this baby up. Take out our convector and our grate. So a big key, whether you're lighting or relighting an egg, you want to have the same amount of charcoal in there every single time. So you'll see there's a line in here. This is called the fire box. This is called the fire ring. We're always going to have it full to this line. After a cook, you're going to actually just put it out, and then it'll go out, no problem. Whatever charcoal's left in there, you're going to reuse. When you come back, you're actually just going to stir the charcoal, add whatever little bit you use. Typically, we're looking at maybe a handful or two of charcoal is all I use, but I like to have that consistent amount of charcoal so that I know, hey, if I put my vents here, it's gonna be the same temp every time as you get used to cooking on this thing. So for those of you unfamiliar, this is natural lump charcoal. This is actually charred wood. They just basically burn out all the impurities, all the moisture out of it, and you're left with just the charred wood. Unlike briquettes, which are 20% wood at best, this is 100% wood. It's also easier to light, as I mentioned before. None of it goes to waste. Now, there's a couple different ways to light this. I've seen people use a torch. I've seen people, they make an electric lighter that works really well. They make a gas-powered lighter that works really well. The number one thing I will tell you, please do not ever put lighter fluid in a Big Green Egg. The reason why is once you get used to cooking with this natural lump charcoal, you're gonna be able to taste the flavor of lighter fluid, okay? That's how much your palate's going to change. If you put lighter fluid in this egg, which is completely unnecessary if you're using good natural lump charcoal, if you put lighter fluid in this egg, it's gonna soak in the ceramic. That flavor will stay with the grill for quite some time. So never put lighter fluid in the egg. Now, as I mentioned, there's several different ways to light this. I'm old school. I like the old school speedy light, they call them, fire starters. These are paraffin wax and sawdust, completely non-toxic. You actually only need one of these to light even the extra large egg, contrary to popular belief. It's not gonna get hot faster if you put 3 of them in there. You can if you want, I'd be happy to sell them to you. But you simply take one of these guys, light it on fire, and set it in the middle. That's it. So now that I drop this in, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna actually leave this just like this for 4 to 6 minutes. The windier it is, the faster it's gonna be, but typically sometime between 4 and 6 minutes. What you'll notice here in a minute is pretty soon we're gonna have a fire inside this egg. What we're waiting for is for that fire then to die back down. Once that fire dies back down, we can then close our lid, and then we'll have the top vent wide open, the bottom vent wide open until it gets to that 450 degrees. I don't care if you're gonna be cooking at 200 degrees or if you're gonna be cooking at 800 degrees. Obviously 800, you have to go to 450 first, but you're gonna always wanna get to 450 first, whether you're cooking at 250 or 350. Let that egg get good hot and then bring it back down to wherever you need to be. Okay, as you can see, that fire's now died down. So now all we gotta do is simply close the lid. Make sure this top vent's wide open. Make sure this bottom vent's wide open. Like I said before, we wanna get it to 450 degrees every time. Just make sure we have a good hot bed of charcoal. That'll take probably another 4 to 6 minutes. So another 4 to 6 minutes, we'll be ready for food. Okay, so we got our Big Green Egg lit. Let's talk about how to actually use the Big Green Egg. The bottom vent is your macro control. So you're gonna change the temperature by hundreds here. Your top vent is your micro. So tens and single digits here. So basically when you're gonna sear, you're gonna have it wide open. When you're gonna bake, you're gonna have it open a couple inches. When you're gonna smoke, it's gonna be barely open. You fine tune up here. One thing I wanna talk about with temperature though is what a lot of people don't realize. I also spent a long time, that same 16 years that I was in the barbecue business, we also sold home appliances. The average electric oven fluctuates 44 degrees up and down. So it says 350 on the outside. You're actually bouncing between 325 and 375 on average. Some are worse. I think the best in the world are like 16 to 20 degrees. The big green egg, when you set it to a temp, it's going to stay there. You're not going to fluctuate more than a couple degrees. My point is, more important to temperature is the consistency than the actual temp. So if you got this thing, you got a recipe that calls for 350 degrees and this thing's sitting at 360, I'd just leave it alone. Just because it doesn't say 350 on the outside like your oven does when it's lying to you, or any electronic control does it's lying to you, doesn't mean that it's not going to outperform them in terms of the actual result of the food. So get it set to temp, leave it alone. Another question I get often on the big green egg, now that I'm done cooking, what do I do, right? You got all this charcoal left in here. Well, the cool thing is if you're using good natural charcoal like big green eggs, there's nothing you have to do. You simply just close your air vents and it'll go out. Like literally this thing's gonna go out and take a couple hours for it to fully cool down. When you go to relight it, you simply just take your ash tool, stir up that charcoal so the ash drops down, add whatever little bit you used, relight it like you normally would, you're ready to go again.